Hi, my name is Abigail Wagner, and today I will be talking about the types of listening. This is within the language art listening. I am currently in the course Literacy and Language Instruction within the fall 2023 subterm D at Liberty University online, obtaining my master's in elementary education, kindergarten through sixth grade. I have determined two different learning outcomes for this presentation that you should be able to conquer by the end. The first one is distinguishing between the four types of listening, and the second one is to be able to provide an example for each type of listening. First, I have discriminative listening. This type of listening is specifically distinguishing among sounds. It also includes sensitivity to nonverbal communication, which can be seen as when a teacher were to change from a happy face to a frown, and a student would know that that teacher was not happy anymore and was sad or angry. And this is just a student understanding and interpreting nonverbal cues as a form of communication and emotion. Some strategies include blending and segmenting, which we can see a lot in Hegarty, which is phonemic awareness. Kind of outline that a lot of pre-K and kindergarten teachers use to help students with not only their listening skills, but their verbal skills as well. Some other examples of discriminative listening include noticing rhyming words in a song or tongue twisters like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, like I have listed below. The first article I found did actually highlight tongue twisters for L2 pronunciation, which is L2 meaning language 2. So English was not their first language. I personally have done tongue twisters in my Spanish courses, for I minored in Spanish in college. And I never really thought about it as a way to really focus on pronunciation, but it actually does really help, which is what was determined in the results of this study. They compared tongue twisters versus authentic sentences, so sentences that were normal and created, not alliterations, and the teaching of L2 pronunciation. Students also were found to enjoy these tongue twisters, and they also led to better pronunciation. And if a student is enjoying an activity, they're more likely to be paying attention and be in tune with what they're doing, which can also help attain those goals the teacher has for them. The second one is aesthetic listening. This is listening for pleasure and enjoyment, which we all do by listening to music or watching TV. This can be strategically used by predicting, visualizing, and connecting. So when we're listening to a song, a lot of times we'll be trying to connect to the lyrics, or listening to a story a teacher is saying and visualizing what's going on in that story, because we don't actually see it. So some other examples include plays, videos of stories, grand conversations, read aloud books and poems, choral readings, puppet shows, and music, like I said before. The third type is efferent listening. This is very prevalent in college with lecturing. The purpose of it is to understand a message. So strategies include organizing and questioning. Some examples include listening to oral reports, viewing informational videos, participating in discussions, nonfiction read alouds, and listening to directions. So this is catering to all ages. As simple as listening to directions, to as complex as listening to an oral report of a topic someone may not have any clue on. Next, we have critical listening, which is branching off of efferent listening. So not only is it understanding that message, but it's also interpreting that message and trying to detect an underlying meaning from that message. So it's more complex, and strategies include evaluating and drawing conclusions. Evaluating is the main thing to highlight here. Some questions to ponder when listening critically include: what is the purpose? Is there propaganda? And are there intellectual character or emotional appeal present? Some examples include listening to political debates and speeches, watching commercials, and evaluating arguments in books read aloud. So a lot of this critical thinking can be seen in higher grade levels, such as fourth grade, when they start doing more discussion circles where students are kind of trying to understand propaganda. They're trying to understand what teachers are saying and make their own connections on that, and evaluating what the teacher's actual point of view is on that situation, not just understanding the content that they're providing. The second article I found highlights read alouds, which I've mentioned a lot during this presentation. The title is How Fifth and Sixth Grade Teachers Use Read Alouds to Support Student Learning. They found that read alouds were actually very helpful and helped students develop literacy skills and make connections to the reading when they're hearing someone else read to them. However, this practice, they found, did decline after fifth grade, so after that elementary age. And this was mainly because teachers felt pressure to cover their curriculum, and reading aloud to their students didn't seem like something they could fit in their schedule. So maybe that could be something that could be thought of in the future by students like me to implement in their classrooms, even though they may not feel like they have time. It is something important to include because it was worthwhile and valuable, which the teachers found. So how can language arts activities be differentiated? The first example is with ESL students. For students, specifically in my example, I did students who speak Spanish. So if a teacher's reading, I focused on read alouds for these also. So for a teacher's reading a book in English aloud to the classroom, she could give the ESL student a Spanish or a book written in Spanish. And that kid could read the book while the teacher was reading, and kind of the teacher could stop and make sure the student is keeping up. But by reading along at the same time, the student will be able to make connections between the two languages and also help their listening skills and help them to develop the language more. My second example was catered to students with ADHD, because read alouds can be a little bit difficult to pay attention to, and listening in general seems or is a little bit more difficult for students with ADHD to pay attention and listen to someone speaking when they're not physically doing something. So to help these students, the teacher could do a small group read aloud instead of a whole group, and have the students sit closer to them, or also provide a worksheet possibly for the students to fill out as the teacher's reading, and she can pause and make sure that the student is keeping up with the story and what's going along with that, so that they can stay on task. And here are my references. Thank you so much for listening.